Hello, my name is Prince Okechukwu Obasi-ike, Mchungaji, a pastor. By the grace of God, I've been married for 32 good years with my precious wife, Pastor Esther Obasi-ike.
Our journey began in the Institute of Management and Technology in Wuden, Anambra State in Nigeria, currently in Enugu State. I had come to read food science and technology in the Polytechnic. And I met my husband there. He had come to read finance and banking. He was doing his higher national diploma. I was doing ordinary national diploma, which is called OND. He was doing HND. So I came in, and I came in not as a believer. I came into the campus as an unbeliever, but of course a very religious fellow. I was, shortly after I came, I was actually elected to the position of chaplain for the entire Protestant community in the entire campus. So I was actually the chaplain of the Protestant community in the school, but I was not saved. And I was a powerful preacher, in quotes, then for them, and was addressing the congregants very often. It was through that process that the Christian Union people noticed me. They took notice of me, they took note of me, and again, my roommate was part of their team, Christian Union Fellowship. And that's how they began to speak to me, preach to me, trying to convince me, inviting me to meetings, and try to really be very friendly, to let me know that I will be very valuable to God, because they watched me speak in the Protestant programs, and my social life also was very, at least very, say sociable, something like that. Let me use that word, sociable. So they would always come to me to say, you have such, you can create an atmosphere that will enable the gospel, and your speaking ability will be a good asset in the kingdom, if only you can give your life to Christ. Eventually in 1984, because I entered the school in 1983, in 1984, I gave my life to Christ in one of their meetings. And that was the beginning of getting to know my husband, because he was already born again and actually was one of the leadership in the Christian Union. So when I joined the Christian Union, they became the people that were like following us up as new converts. And so I think he's still following me up 32 years down the line. So that's actually our meeting point in the fellowship. Yes, without being saved, we would not have met each other, because I was in school. I didn't know him until I got born again. Then I met him in the fellowship.
After she got saved, all right, in the campus. And I took notice of her because she was very, very playful, always laughing. Even when we come for Bible studies, we are asking questions, she will laugh, she will play. So I took note of her. I noticed her that this type of person needs to get serious. Somehow, I believe she wasn't serious, even though she was attending fellowship. So one way we thought we could make her serious is to disciple her. Okay, so it was in the process of those meetings, fellowship upon fellowship, that one day something happened. And that day, there was a crowd of people, not a cloud, a crowd of people. Even before that time, I had started praying, asking God for who will be my wife. I've started doing that long time, far behind that period. And so I was looking out. So one day I saw a sign in that crowd. A sign just pointed at her. I said, what? This person that is so playful, always laughing. Just, you will see her, when she's laughing, she won't laugh alone. She will laugh and then hit the person that is, that is next to her. And so, so that's how it began. And it was a long journey. I thought it was going to be a very quick one, but it was very long. I went and spoke to my prayer partner in the campus then. So I told him that, look, what God showed me, because we have been praying together. I said, I don't know why God is pointing to this sister. So I told her, the sister, and we all have come to know her as somebody that, just like I've said earlier on, he was too prayerful for anybody to believe that this person can become an asset, that she can actually sit down and be serious. So he told me, he said, Brother Obasi, I think what you do, let's just pray. If it is God, he will confirm it. So we kept praying. We kept praying. Then one day, we agreed, okay, let me approach her. So I called her to meet me in an uncompleted building in the campus. So I began to ask her questions because I wasn't sure she would know. So I had to ask her, if God speaks to you, will you know? Will you know that it's God speaking to you? And she said, I will know. I said, okay. To cut the long story short, I said, I want you to go and pray and find out if God will speak to you about me.
Let me first explain the issue of being playful. From the first day I gave my life to Christ, I was a very serious Christian, non-compromising. As a matter of fact, on the same day I got saved, I terminated 2 relationships. Yes, I was already in serious relationships, 2 of them heading for marriage, and the 2 of them had come to see my parents. And yes, and I was still trying to figure out of the 2. And in my heart, I knew I may not actually marry any of them because I had my reservations about each of them. So when I got saved, the same day I had not even left the venue where I got saved. I had God. I started hearing God from the second I got saved. While I was in that meeting, the Lord spoke to me and told me, terminate these 2 relationships. I pulled out my paper and I wrote termination relationship 1, termination relationship 2. I wrote termination of relationship 1 and 2 right in the meeting where I got saved. And I meant it from my heart. I cried like a baby, and I eventually delivered those messages. I posted one to the United States because one was in the US, one was in our campus. They know him very well. So I sent those messages to them. It's another story. But I think in the understanding of Christianity then by my husband, those years, when you're born again, your face should be like Uji mix. Yes, you should be serious. You should be tight to show holiness, righteousness, and all those stuff. Laughter was not part of the package of salvation. And so, for them, I was not serious. I was not a serious believer because I carried my social life and carried my character, let me call it, I don't know what to, personality. That's the word I'm looking for. My personality is a very jovial personality. My personality has a lot of humor. My personality, I love social life, and when I'm not happy, you will easily know, because sometimes the face, unconsciously, will not be my face. My normal face is laughter and smile. And so they could not believe that I was a serious Christian. So I want to explain that. And eventually, I think time corrected them that we need those things as part of Christian living, so that we can attract unbelievers. So, like he said, that day when he called me, he actually did not just say, if God speaks to me about him, will I know? He started in parables. He started with parables.
Correct.
Yeah, he started by saying, if somebody from a certain tribe comes to marry you, what will you do? Will you marry that fellow? I told him that was a no-go zone. I said, that tribe in Nigeria, I wasn't ready for that. He now said, okay. He called another tribe. I said, no. Then he came to our tribe. We are from the Igbos. We are the Igbos of Nigeria. So in Igbo land, we are not all exact in culture. So he then was from Imo State. It was later it became Abia State. But then it was Imo State. And I was from Anambra State, and it's still Anambra State up till now. So then in those years when we were growing up, we had this mentality about Imo State people, that they are quite different from us, the way we believe we were brought up. And so going to that side was not an option for me. So when he now told me, okay, if somebody from Imo comes to you, what will you do? I hesitated. I said, well, I'm not really sure, but I will see, but that's not my option. I don't want to go to Imo State. But I will see. That's what I said. So he said, if God speaks to you, do you hear? I say, yes. I say, if God speaks to me, I will hear. He said, okay, I'm giving you some time.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. You go. You see how people, you see how Christians do. You are telling me that you are giving me 2 weeks to hear God, as if to say that God must speak within 2 weeks.
And there was a reason, though. There was a reason. The reason was because, as at that time, my knowledge of Christianity was such that you can't pray, ask God for something, and it takes long for you to get it. That was my experience until I met her. She's the one that God used to change that mindset. Because prior to that time, in the campus where I was before I came down to IMT, whatever we ask God, before you know it happens. So to imagine that somebody will pray for 2 weeks and he won't get the answer, that was not an option for me. So that's what happened. So I gave her 2 weeks.
Which eventually became 4 years plus. And from 4 years plus to 8 years plus. It's another story. However, I told him that, yes, I hear God. So he said he was giving me 2 weeks to hear from the Lord about him. That was when I said to myself, what in my heart, what does he mean? That was when he decoded that maybe he had planned. Because I thought as a senior brother, he was trying to prepare me for someone, in case somebody comes, will I hear? I didn't know he was the agenda, he was the project himself. So when he said, if the Lord speaks to me about him, he's giving me 2 weeks, I said, okay. So we parted. And then I went, as usual, I went to my friends to tell them. And I did a little drama when I was presenting it. I called them, I say, guess what? Guess what? Hey, somebody has proposed. They say, wow. And they say, who? I say, that's how he used to clap in the fellowship. His hands in the fellowship were the drum set, were the guitar, and where he used to pray. Once we hear, we know that Brother Obasi was in the fellowship. So I didn't call name. I only told them, hey, somebody has proposed. They say who? I say, and they say, Brother Obasi. I say, hey. So that was how I gave them the message. They laughed, I laughed. Me, I was laughing like he must be a joker. This one is a joker. Marry who? So I just laughed and dismissed it. That was it. And I dismissed it. So I never prayed. Oh yes, what was I praying for? I wasn't praying. You pray for what you desire. You pray for what you wanted. Yeah, for me, it was a joke. He was cracking a joke. So there was no point of wasting my time praying. So I didn't pray. So after 2 weeks, he came back to me. Has the Lord said? I said, God has not said anything. So anyway, he kept waiting, he kept checking, he kept waiting, he kept checking. And for me, God was not speaking, and I was not praying, so there was nothing God would speak. But along the way now, we had other people coming to propose from different places. And at the end, they were about 9, either 9 or 8. Yes, me only. And everybody said, God said. So at that point, I knew I needed to pray.
Because, like I mentioned earlier on, this kind of waiting, I have not known it in my Christian life. God speaks when we call on him. So it was a very, very serious one. To the point that, because not long after that, I left to go and do my National Youth Service. In 1986, I left the campus to go and do National Youth Service. And I went to Lagos. And right there, I became the evangelism, counseling, and visitation secretary in the Lagos State Christian Corpus Fellowship. And that assignment enabled me to interact with so many people. So with her delaying, I was beginning to wonder, why is she wasting my time? Then one brother one day actually told me, he called me Obasi. I said, yes, bro. He said, are you sure that you will continue to wait? Because by that time, 3 years have gone.
And I have not heard from God.
And she hasn't heard from God. I said to him, I'm trying, bro. Until one time I said, no, this cannot be real. By that time, she has left herself to do 1 year industrial attachment. So I wrote her a letter which I sent by EMS, the expedited mail service of NIPOS, kind of in Nigeria too. So in that listen, I think I gave her a date that I can't remember very well. That if by this date you have not made up your mind, then so be it. I will wait. When you marry, whoever you get married to, I will now decide, Lord, I have come to the end of this journey. Where do I go now? So I sent her that letter. And after sending her that letter, we continued in fellowship. There was this sister that was always very fond of me in the campus. She was our treasurer in not in the campus, in the fellowship, the Christian Corpus Fellowship. She was the treasurer. So it was beginning to look as if, so I wasn't sure, but I said, okay, let me try. So one day I told her, I want to see you at the place where we hold our fellowship. That was what they call it, Presbyterian Church in Lagos, in Yaba, Lagos. So that day I brought a chair, put for her, I put for myself, so to talk to her. And before I could open my mouth, something like a stone hit me. I'm telling you, it hit me. Then I bent like this. I began to cry. After that, she was saying, Brother Pastor, what's the problem? I said, no problem. Thank you. So that was it. I didn't say anything. So I had to go back to wait. Meanwhile, she had received that. When she received that letter, let her tell you what her response was when she received the letter.
Anyway, I had received several letters from him when I was doing my industrial attachment. But that one, when it came, I looked at it. I mean, I was, this man is waiting for me to get married, then he can quit. Within that period, too, I was already beginning to develop love for him, but I had reservations, 2 reservations. I didn't want to marry from that particular culture because primarily, they don't handle women the way our culture handles women. Yes. Women are not so highly valued in their culture. And so you are expected to not talk, a woman should not lead, a woman should not be visible, a woman should not be economically empowered. Those traditions that are very common with Africa in some African cultures, very prominent in their own place. And so it was a big concern for me. Secondly, concern again is that he comes from a polygamous family. I come from monogamous family. And growing up, our family were very closely knitted. And I know what goes on in polygamous family. They have this culture of extended family. Everybody is a family member. Everybody is a relative, which I didn't grow up with. And so I was so much concerned that I may not fit into this culture because I was somebody who had a dream of the kind of marriage I wanted. I wanted a very romantic marriage. I had a mentality of marrying a man that will also have a skill of playing guitar. I used to see them in the movie. So I thought every evening we will be by the swimming pool. And then the man will come back from work and come and compose a song every day for me with my name and be playing and be carrying me up and down at the swimming pool. That was the dream I had and vision I had for marriage, and that was what I was praying for. I just need love. I just want somebody who will be petting me and moving me around. That culture will not fit into my dream. So those things were the things that actually confused me a lot in terms of knowing the direction God was leading me. But at a point, I just said, I love this man, but I wish he's not from where he came from. I wish he's from my place. That's what I thought. But anyway, along the way, God used a friend of mine who is also a friend of his, a big auntie for us in the fellowship, to intervene. The lady came to me one day and told me, your marriage choice is becoming a burden to all of us. They all loved me in the fellowship. We don't want you to miss the plan of God. Can we fast and pray? I said, why not? We can fast and pray. She said, we will fast and pray on one condition. Whatever God tells you to do, will you do it? I say, yes, if it is God. So we fixed a day for fasting and praying. The day we agreed to fast, I woke up with a very bad diarrhea. The diarrhea was uncontrollable that I could not go to school. But a voice told me, this is satanic attack, trying to make sure you don't pray. Instead of not fasting and praying, miss class. So I took permission. I told my colleagues to tell the lecturer I was not feeling well, the lecturers, and I stayed in the hostel, fasting and praying, taking only water. Exactly 6 o'clock when we were to round up the fasting, diarrhea stopped. Diarrhea stopped. That was a confirmation that the enemy did not want me to enter into a spiritual transaction with God to know who out of these suitors. So my friend came in because by that time she had graduated, she had left the campus. So she came and asked me, did you fast? I said yes. She said, let us go and pray. So we went to a place in our school we named Mount Zion, a very popular place that Christian Union people would always go to pray. And God never turned down any prayer in that Mount Zion, not one. So we went there to pray. It's a place in the campus. So we prayed and we listed the names of all my suitors and we presented before the Lord. And we gave God a very polite and humble condition. Whoever out of these people you have chosen for me, confirm it for both of us. Let it not just be that I receive somebody different, she receives somebody different. Let them be the same. So we prayed and parted. We agreed on the day that we will come back to check. On that day, I was coming from another campus because our school had campus 1 and campus 3. So I was coming from another campus to come to the other campus to do my assignment in the library. It was around 3 p.m. As I was heading to the library, the Holy Spirit spoke, don't go to the library, go to your room. I closed my books, I went on the bed. Within few minutes, I went into sleep. And in the dream, I had a dream. His immediate senior brother came to me in the dream and handed a letter to me. And that letter was his handwriting, but the voice was the voice of God. And in that letter it says, I know why you are bothered about accepting Brother Obasi as your husband. You are bothered about the culture of the people, the tradition of the people. I, the Lord, will go with you. And I will fight whoever fights you. I will contend with whoever. It's not exact words, but God was telling me, nobody will be on your way in this true cultural practices there. Do not be afraid. I will go with you. I thought it was a real letter, so I started looking for the letter on the bed. I didn't see the letter. So I went to my roommate and asked her, did anybody walk in here to look for me? Because I was looking for the immediate senior brother. The roommate said, no, nobody walked in here. I caught the message immediately. The handwriting was his. The culture was his. The voice was God's. I broke into tears. I said, no, God, you must be joking. So while I was there crying, in real life, my friend came in. That's my prayer partner. Came in. As she came in, she sat by the side of the bed and she saw the gifts that brother has sent me, beautiful flowers, cards. So she started reading those things and then now loudly said, I will not be intimidated by all these gifts here. I have come here to declare the counsel of God. So I finished, I rounded up my prayer. That's how I knew she was there. So I got up. Uche, you are here? Yes. She said, Nkem, sit down. She said, has God spoken to you? I said, no. She said, it's not true. She said, it's not true because God spoke to her around 4 a.m. in the dream, early morning of that day. And when she woke up, she said she knew she was in for trouble because the fellow God showed her is the one she knows I will not accept. And she told God, I can't deliver this message until you have spoken to Sister Nkem herself. And the Lord told her, I want you to go there around 4. I would have spoken to her before you arrive. She asked the Lord, how will you speak to her? She goes to school. By that time, she should be in class. God said, leave the plans for me. Go there by this time. I would have spoken to her. So she now told me what she saw in her dream. That in her dream, she saw me and my husband in the bedroom, living like husband and wife. And other people were saying, when did we eventually marry without telling them? So that began another journey for me to now respond to what he said. But all these things happened 4 years from the time that he proposed.
Actually, 4 years plus.
Yes, 4 years plus.
And one of the letters that I wrote, with that time that I said I will wait, I had indicated Songs of Solomon, chapter 8, verse 7. Many waters cannot quench love. Even the mighty floods cannot drown it.
And I took that letter to school. I was carrying that letter in every paper, reading and laughing. So one time I took it to class, and the subject we were handling that day was a very difficult subject, engineering drawing. And so while the lecturer was teaching engineering drawing, I was busy reading his letter and laughing. So the lecturer stopped and said, Nkema Achuso, what is funny in this class? I said, no, I'm sorry, sir. He said, okay, answer this question. He now asked me one calculus question on. I said, so please, I'm not even understanding what is going on there. So the man told me, concentrate. Nkema Achuso, concentrate. It was that week my friend came and interrupted my movement. And that changed the direction completely to another direction.
Well, after that confirmation, of course, in my own case, I had written down what was coming. After she has agreed, I wrote it down what will now happen concerning the parents. It's still in my diary up to today, my 1986 diary. God has shown me that when I am through with her, there is yet another hurdle, and that of the parents. It will be tough for them to accept, and it was tough. That took another 4 years plus, almost 9 years, until we found out. But the day that I need to say something. The day we agreed was very unique day. There was a wedding. Who was wedding that day?
The same Uche.
Uche.
The same lady.
Was wedding.
Yes.
So I had come down from Lagos for the wedding. And before then, I had written her, on this day
will be the final.
That will be the final. We have to conclude it. So whatever
without him knowing that something had happened, that I was actually waiting.
Whatever you give me as an answer, that will be it.
Yes.
So on that day, it was a great day because after the wedding, we sat. I said, I need witnesses. So I brought a witness.
2 witnesses. I brought a witness. He brought a witness. Yes.
So interestingly, she agreed. And it was, a big weight left me. Joy. I was very grateful to God that eventually she accepted. Now, the other journey, I said, we'll go through it. And we went through it. The people were not, my in-laws were not for it at all. But at the end of the day, by the grace of God, everything came together. And we had the wedding. And it was a fantastic wedding. Glorious one for that matter. On the 6th of February, 1993.
So after we agreed, I knew myself that to give this announcement to my parents, my siblings, will be serious spiritual warfare. Because there was one day he visited our house. It was a Mothering Sunday, the day for Anglicans, the day they call for mothers. So he passed by our house, and we were all at home. And when I escorted him and came back, I was asked, I hope there is nothing going on between you and this guy. I was told that they told me, this guy that passed by the house, I hope you have nothing to do with him except this church fellowship you people are doing. I said nothing. They said, we are warning you. So imagine that. Then now, years later, you come back to tell them that that same guy that passed by you warned me is the one I'm bringing. And already they knew very well that other people proposed. And they really wanted me to go to the family of the other one because they know him very well. They had never known anything about my husband, no family, no relative. And meeting him was the first time I heard about their village. I had never known about that village in our Igbo land. It was when I met him that he said, I asked, where are you from? I said, I've never heard about it. So, how do I now communicate this to my parents? You want to get married to where you don't know? Who is their relative you don't know? Who is the father you don't know? Who is the mother you don't know? What are you going there to do? But I summoned courage. And the day I announced it, hell broke loose in our family. Oh my God. My mother, it was like out of all the children, you can't disappoint the family like this. Not you. I was the favorite of my dad. My dad called me till he died. Whatever magic he's using, because the place my husband comes from, we see them as a very diabolic place. They are warriors. Then my siblings will tell me the story of brother, because in their place they don't have the word nephew, niece, cousin. Everybody is brother and sister. So my siblings will be making jest. You want to go and marry where there's no, everybody is bro. They told me, you cannot go, you can't even survive there. So they began now to fight the proposal, and it was no longer business as usual between me and my parents. It actually strained our relationship. So eventually, I also made up my mind that it's either him or I remain single. So I made it known to the parents. I told them I had God. I said it was a long journey even for me to accept. But because God is in this thing, I don't want the family to scatter because of this proposal. So what we can do is either I marry him or you people allow me to be single and stay. That was when they knew. I just said, rather than make a mistake in my marriage, let me live my life for God. So I went on mission, went to school of mission. After that, I was posted for a short-term mission work in northern part of Nigeria. I went there as a single lady doing missionary work. That was when my parents decided, rather than lose this child, let her come home. And they now told me, you have decided that this is where you are going. It's a choice you have made. I said, it's a choice I have made. They now say, call him to come. Tell him to bring his family. The traditional was not easy also, because the traditional, in my place, they have, just like any other culture, they have the requirements you have to meet. How many tubers of yams, how many goats, how many cartons of wine and all this. But before that day, my husband had come with his relatives, and what they presented was below standard in our custom. So when my father came and saw it, my father was very upset and chased them away with those things. Yeah, he looked at them and said, you brought me goat that is like goat that has suffered from diarrhea. You brought me yam that. He said, what is this? Carry all these things and leave my house. So they carried the things, and I told my father, I was crying. I said, I will follow him. They said, follow me. I said, I'm following him. I said, if you chase him away, I follow him. They chased him away, I followed him. I followed him, carried the yam, carried everything. So another date was fixed for him to bring things that befitted the family. And so he came. Because just by the time before my husband was ready for this marriage, he suffered a serious financial loss. He was doing very well in the business he was doing, and also he was working for the state government of Lagos. He won an award as the best copper in their set and got automatic governor's job. So the Lagos state governor gave him automatic job, and he became the auditor for the Lagos state government. So outside that auditing, which was a government job, he had businesses. But along the way, something happened. He had left his job, doing only business. He lost the business. So my husband, at the end of the day, by the time I was telling him yes, my husband, by the time we started the relationship, my husband was below zero. I mean below, no, you had, by the time I said yes, he had money. Few weeks after that, or few months.
When we're now about
when we now to start, He lost everything. And when I mean everything, I met him in debt. So now, coming 9 years later, he was still struggling to recover, paying the debt he took for businesses and all those things. So we didn't have much for flamboyant stuff, for meeting even basic traditional. There was nothing. So actually, I contributed. For the first day of knocking on the door, we put money together. For dowry, we put money together. For wedding, we put money together. That's what we did. So when we presented what we had, and my father said no, it was substandard, we went back, reorganized ourselves, and then brought what he accepted, and he was very happy. And the traditional wedding went well. So the wedding took place in Lagos, and it was a glorious wedding because our focus that day was not just on the party, but on soul winning. And so during the reception, an evangelist preached, his late uncle, the same one I slept in his house, and so many souls, including my boss in the office, managing director, the secretary, the PA, our neighbors, they all gave their life to Christ in our wedding day, on our wedding day. So it was a very glorious wedding day. And right after the wedding, from that wedding till now, my family is ever grateful to God.
No, it was quite interesting because of the fact that there were several things one are taken for granted, that when you get married, it's not what it has always been. So I didn't realize that. So was still the same kind of person I was. So it was quite tough between the two of us. A tug of war. Every now and then something will come up. My goodness, what is this? But by the grace of God, we were able to maneuver that teething, challenging time. And things began to fall into place up to this very day, to the glory of God.
Well, you know, we married as both Christians, as believers. And we both have always loved God, loved God's people, have been involved. But we didn't know, I personally did not know that this marriage will end up in full-time ministry. So we had a very serious incident in our with Favor, our first child, when we were to give birth, when I was to give birth. It's a long story. It was a battle over his life. And so at that point was when God told him it was time to enter full-time ministry. But he did not tell me because he feared how I would respond to it. But God used my mother to prepare me, because my mother had always wanted a very quiet life, contented life, just life. For my mother, once you have shelter, you have food and clothing, you should be okay. But now coming to Kenya was me that God showed. It was in a dream that God showed me everything about our coming to do mission work. The aeroplane we will use, Ethiopian Airlines, we were coming for 3 months to spy the land. And if the land is good, that fellow will come and pick the spouse and the child, everything. And that Redeem will post us out officially. And it is an African country. I woke up, it was 3 a.m., so I woke him up. I said I had a very strange dream, very strange. And I explained to him. He now said he will go and seek for God's guidance. So he took 3 days off and went to see God's face in fasting and prayer, and came back after the 3rd day and told me what God showed you will come to pass. So we bought the map of Africa because God was not specific. He just said an African country, and we began to lay hands on all African countries, asking God to make sure it is the right one. A month or so later, the church recalled his friend, and later I was sent with our son, Favor, and we came to join him, and the vision was perfectly fulfilled. It was God who orchestrated, but used the organization to bring it to fruition, and that's how we came here. So knowing that it was God, there has never been a problem of ministry encroaching into marriage, except on certain personality issues and ideas and how somebody approaches something. You know, the way my husband approached ministry is different from the way I approach. Sometimes his beliefs are different from my beliefs, not in common belief, but the way things should be done. And those ones brought a lot of friction.
It's been wonderful, very wonderful. And one wonderful thing about us is that our children, both of us were involved in from the word go, having to take care, you do this, you do this. There was nothing like, this is for you, woman, do this. We brought our children up together. And we are grateful to God for what he has done.
But they were ever happy to go to church. They were always excited to do. Favor became our drummer from age 6. He taught himself drumming, and he drummed until he left Kenya for the US. And the little one that lives in Canada became a powerful bodyguard, and he still does the same thing today. Anytime we were away, he will be inspecting the church. As soon as service will be over, he will let us know when we call how many people that came to church, because he would have asked the ushers, I want to see the attendance register. He will tell us today people didn't come many because there was rain or there was this. Then sometimes he will say that today people came many. And he was the watchdog of the ministry, and he still does the same thing up to this present time. But now when he launched his book in January, that was when we realized that they went through tough time. We didn't know. It was the content of his book that shocked us, that they went through a lot of traumas just being children of pastors.
Happiest, no, or maybe lowest, if there is, maybe we talk of lowest moment in marriage. Okay, for me, I will use an instant. What happened here, when we came and we're still struggling, and some people saw us and felt that we've not been resting, and the couple felt that we should go and rest. But you see, there was the burden of making sure that this work we've started continues. So there was a payment that the couple made for us to go and rest in one hotel. I don't know whether it was a hotel or guest house.
On Kindaruma,
Yeah.
a guest house.
Guest house. So they paid for us to go and rest for some days there and come from there to church on Sunday.
Thank you so much, my treasure. Just like our names are, my precious, my treasure. They are not just names people pick on the street. You know, people can call themselves sweetie and that, and it's not real. Ours are real names. Where your heart is, where your treasure is where your heart is. I thank God that I have a treasure where my heart has always been. Thank you for your supportive role and being part of what God has also assigned me to do, and giving me spiritual cover and fighting my battles.